Hi Flosstube, my name is Catherine Adrian. This is my very first Flosstube and hopefully not my last one. I have filmed this a couple of times, each time doing something a little bit more nutty, so I'm trying to kind of keep it a little bit more even tempered and not rub up against my microphone or do something crazy. So yes, I have been watching Flosstube for about 4 years now. I'm completely addicted to it. I think like a lot of you are. I watch a lot of the same people that you watch probably. I started off with Vonna Pfeiffer, the Twisted Stitcher. She is just the queen of Flosstube to me. I was listening to Parr interview her on Fiber Talk, and they were talking about something called Flosstube, and at the time I was doing surface embroidery, and I thought, oh my gosh, Flosstube, that sounds like a really great way to store your floss. A bunch of little tubes or something. I need some of those. So I Googled Flosstube, and my life completely changed. I stopped doing any other craft, and I really went full tilt boogie into cross stitch. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I had stitched back in the 80s. I call myself stitching in costume because I learned how to cross stitch when I was working at Disney. I was in the entertainment side of it. I started off as Alice in the Christmas Parade, and I did a lot of their production shows. I worked in Tokyo, I worked in LA, I worked in Florida. I did that for a number of years. I had a lot of fun. And then after that, anyway, so let me just say, let me not give you my resume. So yeah, that's how I learned how to cross stitch, was backstage. We would have long rehearsals late at night when the park was closed. And one of the girls in the play or in the show was a stitcher, and she was cross stitching, and so I asked her to teach me. She did, and I did a lot of little things like bunnies and geese and teddy bears, and then I got into this big full coverage piece, and it just got to be way too much for me, and I put it down and did other things. Anyway, so I did that. I worked with Disney, I worked at cruise lines, and then I stopped all of that, got married, and my husband and I have 2 children that are grown adults that live on the property with us. We live in the Sierra Nevada foothills in California. I grew up in California, not far away from where we live now. And we moved from the coast about 2 years ago. So we lived down near Monterey, and now we live up in closer to the mountains. I love it up here. It's beautiful. Our kids live on the property with us. We have 6.5 acres. Our daughter and her husband live in our guest house. Our son lives in the garage apartment, which is really great because he was going to school down in LA, and COVID hit, and so he said, come on back here. So everybody has their place to go, but we can all get together too. So yeah, it's great. We've got our family compound. So yeah, it's, yeah, so I escape into my sewing room, which is where we are right now, and I do a lot of stitching. I do costumes too. So even though I don't do, professional theater, I do theater, and I treat it like it's professional. So I still like to act in plays when obviously we can't right now because of COVID. But I've done a lot of productions. I continue to do that where I can, and every once in a while we'll help out with costumes. So I enjoy doing that. I do historical costumes from the perspective of building things from the inside out. So I do the corsetry. I do the layers that go underneath everything. I try to make all of my trims by hand, so it's really labor intensive, and it's quite a lot of hours to build something like that. I started to embroider because I wanted more of a handwork look to my costumes, and then I started to do cross stitch because I was listening to Parr, and so I started to get into, because I like history, I started to get into the historical samplers. I love samplers. That's the majority of what I'm focused on right now, although I do like to do the smaller things too. So I like the extremes. I like the big giant projects, and I like the teeny tiny little projects. So yes, I do all different kinds of things that I'll show you a few of the things that I have completed and my projects that I'm working on right now. How I stitch. Well, I stitch in two-handed. I like to use a frame. And I've tried to stitch in hand. It takes a lot of time for me, and I feel like it's time I could be just enjoying the stitching, and every once in a while I'll try again, but it's really kind of hard for me to maneuver. I do like to stand up when I stitch. My husband rigged up this way for me to stand. I have back issues, and it really is hard for me to sit for any extreme length of time. So every 10 minutes or so, if I am sitting and stitching, I'll stand up to thread my needle and I'll sit back down. But yeah, he made me a special frame. I do stand up and do my two-handed stitching. I have a lot of magnification and light because my eyes, So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's how I do it. So let's see, what else can I tell you? Samplers, obviously, is what I like. And I told you a little bit about my family. I do have two dogs. We have Pembroke Welsh Corgis. That is our breed of choice. We're on our third one already. We love them. We have two right now, and they're treasures. They're a great breed. A lot of fun. Okay, so I'm going to jump right in with some projects that I have completed, and I'm going to start off with a pink sparrow sampler. This is by With Thy Needle and Thread. Let me grab her. Okay, so I'm going to try not to touch my microphone, which I have been doing in the past. There it is. It's beautiful. I just did it as charted with the called for floss. I changed the fabric. I believe this is a 32 count because it's two threads over two. And I dyed it myself, so I think it was a cream colored. It's a kind of a looser weave, so I probably got this at Joann's or Michael's or something, and I coffee dyed it or Rit dyed. I think I Rit dyed this with a tan Rit. And yeah, everything about this is just beautiful. I need to get this framed and get this up on my wall. I'm hoping to have this wall behind me be my sampler wall. The pink sparrow sampler, and I'm going to show you the chart. There it is. With Thy Needle and Thread. Okay, so I'm going to move that. Next one, I've got this big sampler that yeah, let's move that closer. Wow. All right. It's by Moira Blackburn, and this is called the Maria Short Sampler. I don't know where I saw it, probably eBay. I don't know if it's in print still, but I love it. So that was how she charted it, which is absolutely gorgeous. And I completed it using my own thread conversion. I used some silk flosses, and I used some DMC, I'm pretty sure, and definitely overdyed cottons, especially in the greens. I don't know what it is, the threads. I have a 32 count Smoky Belfast, and I think this was one of the first well, this is definitely the biggest one I've done. And I was not really ready for 40 count or even 36 really. So there it is. It's got my initials, my husband's initials, the Tree of Life. I love the crowns, the windmills, love those. And I added dragonflies because I just love dragonflies. They have a special meaning to me. And it had a religious quote, but I wanted to do, and it was beautiful, but I wanted to do this. This one means a lot to me, a Rumi quote. Let yourself be drawn by the stronger pull of that which you truly love. And I feel that really is how I've always tried to live my life. and sometimes my life pulls me in a lot of crazy directions. So I'm trying to stay focused and like complete projects now, which I have a lot. So there we go. The Maria Short Sampler. Love that one. And again, that one hangs right behind me, right up on that wall. Okay, this one you've probably all seen, All Joys for Thine. A lot of people have been doing this by Blackbird. Really beautiful sampler. I really wanted to do this for my mother. My mom's name is Joy. We lost her in 2012 to lung cancer. Just was pretty devastating, and you know, it's never easy, but yeah. She was born in 1930, and so I wanted to do something that commemorated her birth. So 1930 here, that's her initials, my initials. And let me get a close-up here. It is such a gorgeous sampler. Now, I had a bear of a time with this. Now, this is on a 36 count. I did 1/1. I'm sorry, 1/2 with the called for threads on an XJU design fabric I got from Kitten Stitcher. The name of the fabric is called Grandma's Slip. So if you can see it, it's got like all these like yellow places in it, and it's like, why is Grandma's slip yellow? I don't want to know. Anyway, so I had to Grandma's slip from my mom. She would have laughed, but she would have loved this, or she loved it, right, Mom? Okay, so my next thing, Bluebird Out My Window. And this is by With Thy Needle and Thread. Love it. And this one hangs behind me. Now I have it in this frame. I'm going to pull it down for you. I actually have it. Try not to jostle too much. There it is. So this really cute little like bird cage I found at the thrift store. It just sat in my closet for the longest time. This is just a needle minder up there I stuck on there. And yeah, beautiful. I did it on a Lugana that I dyed myself with the called for threads. Sweet, sweet little sampler. And this is just a little acorn pin keep that I made. I have a thing for acorns. So there's that one. Okay, let's push. Okay, here we go. Teeny Tiny Cross Stitch by Teresa Kogut, who I love her so much. She's got a great channel, and she, you know, she's just so beautiful and peaceful and spreading love. Teeny cross stitch chart. I loved it. And again, like I like all the teeny tiny and the big. So this one is small. This is just, it goes, I have this in a frame I got at the thrift store. So I probably should, you know, make this frame look a little bit better, but because it's such a cute, but I just thought the color was great with the stitch, and I like the shape of the frame. Love it. And I just, you know, I used 40 count for this. 1/2, and I did my own thread conversion. I just kind of grabbed things that I had. So there's some silks and there's some overdyed cottons in that. I think the red is a schoolhouse red. There we go. Love that one too. What else can I show you? Okay, let's push on, because this is behind me. Earthly Treasures. This is one of the first ones I did. I did it on a 36 count. And I got to the face and I realized, whoop, I'll pick it up. It's fine, it's stuffed. I thought, what is going on? Why are the eyes and the mouth different? Well, it was over one. I was just too too green when it came to stitching to know what over 1 meant. So I just went, okay, well, it's just a little bit different, I guess. You just got to count different. So that was my first attempt at over 1. I did fine with it. And it was good that I didn't really, I guess it was good that I didn't really know a lot about it. I just kind of jumped in and did it. And so over 1 doesn't really scare me as much now. I just kind of put my head down and dive into the wave. Alrighty, this one is a Brooks Books freebie. I saw this on Michelle Farm Girl Rudy. I love her, and again, she's probably one of the reasons why I hope my husband doesn't watch this, that we moved to the country, because she has all these beautiful scenes behind her with the barn. She's got the goats running everywhere. I mean, just beautiful. Anyway, so she showed this, and I don't want to show you the whole chart. It was free, so go to Brooks Books and see if you can download it there. I ran over there, I downloaded it, and I stitched it. I used the called for threads. I added some sparkles because I like sparkles. I don't know if they're going to read, but they're in her hair. I tried to make her necklace sparkly. The Christmas tree. I did this for my husband. Like, yeah, that looks like something you'd give your husband, right? But I love the 18th century costume. That is my favorite, my chosen, and that is really a great representation of what the 18th century looks like, you know, to me in a fantasy world. All that, it's like a cupcake. Is what she's wearing. This is my one and only cube I've made. It's just a piece of styrofoam. I think Vonna had a tutorial on how to cover it. I don't remember it. I put that cute fabric on the back and this trim, which looks like you would have on an 18th century costume. So the happy couple. And it's, you know, it's Christmas, but hey, there's a little heart. It could be Valentine's Day too. So that kind of sits in my sewing room as well. This one I'm going to grab. This was this was my first entry back into cross stitch. They were Gary and Vonna, I think, were talking about Linen and Threads Mystery Sal. And so I went in and got that free chart. It was 2017, and I just love it. It was a great chart, but it was so big for me, and I was a little intimidated, so I cut it down. I made it smaller. And I converted it. I just used whatever thread. Well, they just let you choose whatever you want. And so I just grabbed whatever happy colors I had and I threw them on here. So I've got, you know, a little Gloriana silk. I think this is called Tropical or Miami. I can't remember. And then just DMC and some Krynic, which was, that was hard to wrestle into cross stitch, but it's shiny and pretty. And it's obviously just a band sampler that I made into like a bell pull. This section here, I just kind of freeformed it, but I did some scissors, and I did a little bit of needle, not flosses, but threads, and I like the crowns, again, sparkly. I like the bees, acorns that are colorful. Yeah, all the bands, carnations. And then I added an ivy band down here that I had in some historical sampler book, my name, and the year I completed it. I started it 2017, but it languished in a box for a long time, and it wasn't really until our move that I pulled it out and found it and started it up again and said, finish it already. And dragonfly, because I love the dragonflies. Okay, moving on. Now this one is really more of a Valentine's finish. Like I said, I like teeny tiny. I saw Jacob from Modern Folk Embroidery showed this, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, might have been a month ago. And he had made it really small into a scissor fob, so I wanted to be just like Jacob. So I found a piece of it is, gosh, well, they're all even weaves, you know, all the fabrics, but this one is, I believe it's a Lugana, and it's a 25 count. I did it 1/1 with Gloriana silk, and yes, you can see how teeny tiny it is. It is just adorable. And it's funny because I finished it and I thought, oh, I'll give that to my husband for Valentine's Day. I don't know if that's his jam. So it might just live here in my sewing room. There it is. And it is called a Folk Heart Scissor Fob. You can get it on Modern Folk Embroidery website. Really cute. Okay, the one I dropped on the floor, I'm going to grab it. Hey, it landed right side up. This is Prim Village. It's by Lori Holt, who I absolutely love. I love her quilts, and I love the happy colors that she chooses. I wanted to do this immediately, and but I didn't want to do all 12 houses, and I had an idea to finish it into a drum. So I adjusted the border, and I just grabbed whatever color of the houses that I wanted to do, and I put that on there, and I finished it into a drum. Thank you, Vonna Pfeiffer, for your drum tutorials, for all of your tutorials. You're so generous. This is Lori Holt fabric, gingham, that I wanted to make it look like a jam jar. That was my idea, and I had the lace and all of that, and that I just threaded ribbon through. This is the charm that came with the chart. Really beautiful. Cute little finish, and it just made me happy. It just sits in my sewing room and makes me smile. Okay, that is all I'm going to show you finish-wise. That's a lot of finishes. Where am I now? 22 minutes. That's not so bad. Now I'm going to show you my WIPs. This is my WIP section. I got a lot of things going. I might have to pare this down a little bit. This is one that you've all seen before. Do I have all my charts? I don't think I do, but you'll know. His Eye is on the Sparrow by Beth Twist, Heartstring Samplery. I call this my tablecloth. You stand up here. I'll just hold it up. I finished the border in terms of all of the vine just to get it to join, and it met up. I was so happy that day. I'm doing this on 32 count Heartland with the called for threads, although I didn't have chickpea, so I substituted for that. It looks like a lotus or a rose. I substituted, I think it was called wood smoke. Ew. And I wasn't really that thrilled with it, but gosh, I don't want to pull it out now. I just don't want to pull it out. So I'm just going to keep pushing on. It'll just be part of the story of that sampler. Really pretty. It's a fun stitch, and you know, like a lot of people have said, you can just do a little motif here, feel like you've got a little completion, and then you know, you feel like you've got the satisfaction of having something completed to some degree. All right. Blackbird. This one is a Christmas garden, and a lot of people have finished Christmas garden. Celeste Creates did a beautiful finish on it. Yeah, I am doing this one on a 36 count. I'm doing one strand of floss over 2 threads. The threads I am using, let me grab them so I can tell you really quick. We've got Rustle, Rustle, Rustle. I am doing Classic Colorworks Cranberry. I'm doing, oh, I love this one. I'm glad I found this. Belsois Classic Colorworks Collard Greens. There is Classic Colorworks Queen Bee for the yellow or the gold. And the last one I'm using is Caterpillar. Again, Classic Colorworks. I love their threads. They feel like they glide to me. And let me just talk just a moment about threads. I love the Classic Colorworks and the Gentle Arts for how they work. And Weeks I get tangly sometimes, but I'll tell you, those Weeks colors are amazing. They do an incredible job dyeing their threads. I really love them. Okay, next up, Prairie Schooler Songs of the Season. I've been doing this one for quite a while too, and I had the idea to do them all on one piece after I saw Vonna, I think it was Vonna, did the Early Americans all on one piece of fabric, and then she put a border around it, and so I thought, hey, I could do that with this. So I started, all I did was, I just put them there. I just tried to space them like three spaces apart. And I got down to this last one. I was almost done and Christmas was coming, and I thought, oh, I'll just push through and finish it. And then I squirreled something else, and so this got put away. And I pulled it out and I was going to, work on it. But after Christmas, it was hard for me to really get going again. So I need to finish it. Now I obviously have changed the flosses up a little bit here and there. I tried to add different colors to Santa's just to make a little bit of give it a little diversity, and it just makes me smile. I love this one. The colors are so great. I'll probably frame it when I'm all done. I don't know. We'll see when I get done. Alrighty, let's move on. Oh, Joyous Day. A lot of people doing this sal right now, and it's really beautiful. It's when you see these things, in the flesh, so to speak, it's just incredible. I think I'm okay. I don't think I really need the board behind this. I think you can see it. I haven't really done a lot on this. I love Blackbird. I'm also really challenged by the Blackbird. I feel like sometimes I can get off by a stitch or two. I don't know why that is on the border, like Oh Joyous or All Joys for Thine. My gosh, I must have pulled that border out like 3 times to finally, till I could finally get on board and get it completed. But I love it. It's beautiful when you're all done. You're like, what was my problem? You just, as we do, we get off by one stitch, and it kind of throws me crazy. I love symmetry. It kind of drives my husband crazy. I like what's on one side to be on the other side. And I know there's a whole school of thought about Wabi Sabi. I know Kitten Stitcher. I love Kitten Stitcher, how she likes things a little bit less, symmetrical like that. She likes it to be, and I do too. I like it. I love symmetry in terms of I like balance, on even balance. It doesn't have to be the exact same motif, but it has to have the same weight or character to me. Anyway, I digress. Next one, Anne Morrison, 1830. I couldn't resist. Traditional stitches, hands across the sea. I had to get jumping in on this. So this is where I am on it. I am using the 37 count Russian Tea Cake by Legacy Linen. This was from Traditional Stitches. And I am using the DMCs, and it is absolutely beautiful. I'm sure the silks are incredible. But hey, these colors are just gorgeous. Yeah, I guess the blue looks a little bit light when you look at it, but when you see it in, off a camera, it has more dimension, and so you see the stitches pop out a little bit. It's just, what a gorgeous sampler. I'm a little bit ahead, I think, from the sal, because I wanted to get a little bit ahead because I know that there are some specialty stitches coming up, and I don't really do a lot. I have done the eyelet stitch and the satin stitch and things like that, but I'm not afraid of it, but it might take me a little bit of time to do all of the specialty parts. So I wanted to kind of get a little bit of a head start. Hey, no cross stitch police, right? I can do whatever I want. Speaking of which, okay, this one. I love it so much. I was so happy when Nicola Parkman announced that she was going to re-release this. I was like one of those people that was hounding her to, oh, please re-release it. Oh, it's so beautiful. And because I remember when it came out and I just kind of went, that's a sampler. You know, that's pretty. That looks like a lot of stitching. I'll get it someday. Nowhere to be found. And then I saw them go up on eBay for, you know, $300 or more. And I was like, uh-oh. So when she said that she was going to re-release it, I was so overjoyed. I bought both of them, and I bought Anne and I bought Isabella, and I hope to do both of them. So I started with Anne. I am doing it on 36 count. I'm doing one thread over two. I did get from the attic needlework. I got the princess threads. I got all of the silks, and I was so excited. This was my first time kitting something up with silks. I was so over the moon. This is my big focus. This is all I need to do. This is all I want to do. So, and I got a piece of Lakeside linen, vintage pearled barley. That was it. This was the answer to my prayers. So I started it. Olivia B., who I've actually been lucky enough to go to her house. She had a big Christmas party with her sister Elena. I love both those girls so much, and I'm a huge fan. It was fun to stalk them, you know, in person, like look at her house and look at her cross stitch. It was like a dream come true. So yeah, I'm in the NorCal stitching group. And of course, nobody's really meeting because of COVID, but someday we'll all get together and go to Needle in a Haystack. Hope so. So I saw her finish, and I loved it so much. Anyway, let me just tell you a little story here about this. I got off on the border. So I started with this first flower, and then I just went around. I went all the way around with the vine, went up here, and realized I was off by 2 stitches. And I'm like, okay, first of all, I hate it, you know, that I'm off. Second of all, it was silk that I had to take out. And thirdly, it was 5 o'clock on a Friday night, and I was so upset. I started to, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it right now. So I started to rip it out, and I had my seam ripper, and I'm going to town. I'm taking out those stitches. And then I got down, and I wasn't paying attention, or I didn't have my light quite right, and I nicked my fabric. I just one thread of the linen. I thought, you know, there's going to be so much stitching on that. You're not even going to notice that one nicked thread. But what happens though, if you cut a piece of the linen, and I know this from stitching, is it will start to unravel. It's going to get worse and worse. Well, this is a piece of Lakeside, and I just didn't want to get rid of it, and I didn't want to cut it off. And so I said, you know, I've made mistakes before stitching, and I have corrected them. So let me just try to fix this. So I took a piece of silk gauze, and I fused it right to the back, right over where that stitch is. And it stabilized it enough for me to stitch over it. And the good thing about silk gauze is you can treat it like linen, right? You can stitch right through it. So it did fix the problem, but now I'm off by 1 thread. So I'm living with it. It's going to be fine. There it is right there. I just left it to remind me to be careful, to slow down. Once I get everything stitched in there, you're not going to even notice that there's just 1 thread less. Anyway, I love this so much. I cannot wait for this one to be up and on my wall. But I'm enjoying this journey. And because I've learned now, I'm just going to start here and go across and just treat it more of a band. I think I'm going to have a better result in staying on track if I do that. And tongue. Okay, we're moving on to, this was my last one I'm working on here. This is the MMEW 1847. I think I saw this on Instagram. Somebody posted it and then I hunted it down. I found it on eBay. It is the Wyndham collection, samplers and such. And it is charted for DMC. But I wasn't really into the colors. I pulled the colors and I started stitching with them. One of them was kind of this orange color that wasn't really, it wasn't me. So I started to stitch with just my own conversion, and I used the good stuff on this. I've got vintage exemplar, vintage light exemplar from Lakeside Linen, and that's where I've gotten so far. I started at the bottom. I usually start at the bottom left. I don't know why that is, but I work my way up, generally speaking. Yeah, so yeah, I just kind of used whatever, cotton floss, overdyes, and also that's a Gloriana silken on the apples. It's charted for like 2-toned apples, and I thought, well, I'll just use a variegation. And yeah, I love it. I love the way it's turning out. I had to add a corgi. Hey, it's my sampler. It's going on my wall. So yes. There it is. Okay, so those are all my works in progress that I felt, I wanted to grab and drag up here. There's a few more, but that are on the smaller scale, but those are like my big projects that I am doing. So haul, as far as haul goes, I don't really have a lot. I have Winds of Autumn. Everybody and his dog has this one. I love it. It's got great projects in it that I will get to at some point. This I fell in love with immediately and had to completely kit it up by Teresa Kogut. Above all, I love the folk art. I love it so much. I love the heart. The colors. I might have to change that to a corgi, but I don't know. Then if I do that, then I've got to change the dress because the corgis are the same color as the dress. So I don't know. I'll figure that one out. But yes, I charted it. 1, 2, 3 stitch is kind of my go-to just because I live in a place where there's no such thing as a needlework store. Where I live, I'd have to go about 2.5 hours, I think, is where needle in a haystack. That would be my closest. I had to kit this one up too. Brenda and Laura, serial stitcher. I couldn't resist that. So I have a piece of Picture This Plus, and I think I'm just gonna get the flosses as I go. Grab floss and throw it on there. So there we go. That's it. I just wanted to say thanks. If you've made it this long, thank you so much for hanging out with me a little bit in my sewing room. I hope to have some other projects to show completed next time. And yeah, just have a great day. And thanks a lot for stopping by, and take care. Happy stitching.